Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pressbooks Network Manager Training and welcome to the Pressbooks EDU community. My name is Amy and I am the Customer Success Manager at Pressbooks. We have met over email already, so welcome to the session. In this training, we'll cover everything you need to know as a network manager for Pressbooks at your institution, from how to customize your network homepage to managing the administrative settings and panels for your network. And we'll also cover a little bit about how to get started with content creation on Pressbooks. And before we dive into the session, I want to let you know of a couple of resources that we have available that I've already made known to you throughout our email interactions, but I thought it'd be nice to show that will be essential for you and the users on your network. So firstly, that would be our Pressbooks Network Managers Guide. This will only pertain to network managers. So what you see on this demo today, all of that information will be contained in the guide. You can see that there's a section on network administration and the catalog, as well as the homepage, and a bunch of other administrative panels that will be relevant to you as time goes on. Next, I have the Pressbooks user guide. This will contain all the information that you and your users will need to know. So that's everything about creating books on Pressbooks, exporting your books on Pressbooks, how to embellish your project, as well as other information that you might want to know when creating your Pressbooks book. There's also a nice section down here called Pressbooks Educational Features and Uses. So as you are a Pressbooks EDU institution, this will be relevant to all of the users on your network. And will sort of encompass all the educational features, as the name would suggest. So both of these guides will be really helpful to you. So firstly being networkmanagerguide.pressbooks.com, and secondly being guide.pressbooks.com. And throughout the session, if you are more curious about the topic or would like to read more into it, I would highly implore that you use the search bar to look for certain keywords that you might be looking for. So today we'll cover, customizing we'll be covering how to customize your network. So in that case, you would just look up customize in the search bar and it would take you to the right chapter down here. So those are our user-facing documentation. There are a couple of other sort of places that you can refer to for help. Firstly, being our Pressbooks community. And this is our forum, and you can sign up for the forum by registering, and then you can get in contact with us to be added into this channel called EDU Clients. That is where all of our Pressbooks network managers can talk with us and with other network managers and know what's going on. This is by no means mandatory, but it is an excellent place to share your ideas and have a warm, welcoming space where you're able to talk about Pressbooks and open education in general. So there's that. And then there's two other resources that we have for learning about Pressbooks. Firstly is our YouTube channel. We upload a lot of our webinars on here. We also have short snippet introductory videos that will help you learn about certain concepts and little tidbits. So we have, a book about cloning and adapting OER with Pressbooks EDU, but we also have, our product update meetings that our product manager Steele gives every month that are uploaded to YouTube as well. They're very accessible resources to have. We have closed captions on them, as well as links to resources in the description. So it's a reliable form of, it's an easy and reliable form of learning that you will always have access to. Lastly, just like this training, we also have other trainings available. This training is recorded for network managers, but we give live trainings for anyone in the Pressbooks EDU community. So that is for you and for your faculty, staff, students, anyone who might be using Pressbooks EDU at your institution. They are more than welcome to register for these sessions. There are two of these end user webinars. Firstly, being the getting started with Pressbooks EDU webinar, where we take you through how to get started with book creation and formatting your book and exporting your book, all the basic facts on how to start and share your book. And then we have a more advanced training called Advanced Pressbooks EDU Publishing webinar, where we'll go through the more interactive features such as H5P and hypothesis. as well as features such as accessibility and how to make your book as accessible as possible, and to follow OER best practices. So those are all of the resources that I wanted to make known to you. And lastly, before we get started with the session, I wanted to let you know of our triage support system. I know that lots of information gets lost in email interactions, so it's important that we go through all of this information to start with. Our triage system is a system in which we have a very small team at Pressbooks. So this triage system means that if you have a question from, a staff member at your school, or faculty or students who are interested in asking a question to Pressbooks, they will have to ask you the questions first. And then from there, if you are unable to answer the question, then you would come to us to ask the question. So all that triage system means is that the end users at your institution are not allowed to contact us directly, and they would have to go through you. If you're interested in finding out about our support policy, this is available to you on our website. The part that would pertain to you most, the part that would pertain to you, sorry, is the Pressbooks EDU user section. So please have a read through it so that you have an idea of what our support policy is. Lastly, our email, obviously, as we have already been communicating, is premiumsupport@pressbooks.com. And lastly, our goal at Pressbooks is to help you meet your OER and publishing initiative needs. So if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you about everything from how to use Pressbooks to creating a successful OER publication. So all of that will be covered. So with that being said, we can really head into the session itself today, and yeah. So today we'll be going through the front end interface as well as the back end interface, and all of the parts of those two things that will be relevant to you as the network manager. So beginning with that, I will show you a couple of examples of Pressbooks EDU institutions that already exist, so that you have an idea of how you can get started with your network and what you can strive for your network to look like. So in this case, I have pulled up an example of a Pressbooks EDU institution, as well as a Pressbooks EDU consortial network. So here we have the UC Berkeley's Pressbooks network. You will see that in all of my examples, all of the Pressbooks EDU networks share a theme called the Aldine theme. We built this theme with an art university in Canada called the Ontario College of Art and Design University. They've build a very accessible theme that you're able to customize. So I'll show you all the examples, but let's start with this one. You can see that they have their network logo, as well as their network title, their tagline, as well as their menu. These two boxes up top that you're able to customize, you can see that they have their network colors, and other boxes that they would like to include, which contains information that is important to them. We also have a catalog down here that you can include your featured works into, as well as a footer menu and social media links. So this is sort of the basic framework for the Aldine theme. My next example is a consortium. It's the Online Consortium of Oklahoma. I love showing this network because I think they've done such a phenomenal job with customizing their network. As you can see, the framework for the network root site all looks the same. Like I said, that's the Aldine theme. And this is sort of what you'll be working with, obviously with your own institutional colors and your backgrounds. You can see they have different links and different call to action buttons with different text inside of them. In this case, they've listed their consortial steering committee. They're a newer network, so they only have one book in their catalog, but you can see how this is being used. You can also choose to include a contact form. All of this information is customizable. So if you don't want a contact form, if you don't want a catalog, you can choose to omit these features, but they are available to you. And in this case, they've also added these widget buttons, which allow for them to link to other websites that are relevant to their consortium. So with that being said, I have my last example. So I've had institutions. If you are using Pressbooks for uh, Pressbooks is used by a lot of different kinds of organizations and institutions. My last example is Rebus Press. They are a nonprofit that create wonderful OERs, and they helm a lot of OER related projects as well. If you're not familiar with Rebus, and they have really amazing processes in place to help others create OERs and start OER publishing initiatives. So they're sort of my last example. They're also a sister organization of ours, so we work pretty closely with them. So yeah, Pressbooks and having your own customizable network is not just limited to educational institutions, but it can be for a wide range of purposes that all are centered on collaborating and publishing on lots of different kinds of projects. And at the bottom, you can see, I'll actually dive into a catalog now to show you, they have a bunch of books. They've been with Pressbooks for a very long time. And they all have these peer edited, really beautiful published books. And if I actually hop into a chapter, sorry, not a chapter, but a book that they have, this is one of my favorite books that exists on Pressbooks, period. This is the Introduction to Community Psychology. So if you are not quite familiar with Pressbooks, or you are just getting started with Pressbooks, at its core, Pressbooks is a book formatting software that lets you easily create and export your book in multiple formats and display it on the web, which is one of the many reasons why it's so useful for OER. But at its core, that is what Pressbooks does. So as you can see, this is the web version of a book. You have the title up top, you have the tagline of the book, the authors, the description, the cover image. This book is available in many different download formats. So if your students come across a site and they, would like to print out the book at the school's printing services, then they'd be able to download this book into a PDF and take it so that it can be printed and bound into a physical copy. There are also, this is the table of contents, separated into a front matter section, all of the different parts with the chapters encased inside of the parts, as well as a back matter section with glossary. This is all super customizable and flexible, but I like to show examples of what populated networks and what populated books look like so that you have an idea of what you can strive for. You also have the book information down here, as well as the metadata. So it doesn't fall short of what you would see in a traditional textbook and has all of the necessary components, but it goes above and beyond so that it's even more flexible. There are so many different modalities that your students and readers can have access to. And it can be used for a variety of purposes. It doesn't have to be just for a textbook. It can be for syllabi or for learning material. There are so many different use cases that you can make this available for, that you can make your Pressbooks books available for. And if we step into a chapter, you can see that this is what a chapter looks like. So like I said, not any different from any other educational resources and textbooks that you see. You can have glossary terms that upon clicking on, you can see the definitions for. Text boxes, you can embed YouTube videos, other content, images, and hyperlinks. And there's also H5P activities that you can add, which are open source interactive activities that come in 45 different kinds of activities. So in this case, this is the multiple choice activity, which is one of those 40 plus activities that are available to you. And all of this comes with your Pressbooks EDU license. So this is all available to you. And our goal for these webinars is so that you feel that you have enough information to get started with all of this. So I want to show you what this all looks like. And before we get started with customizing your network, which is the first part of this network manager training, I also wanted to show you our Pressbooks directory, because if you're, I'm showing you examples of many different kinds of networks that we have, many different institutions that we have. But if you're curious to see where you can actually find all of these resources, they're available to you on the Pressbooks directory. The Pressbooks directory is an index of and a collection of all the books that are available on the Pressbooks network, across all Pressbooks EDU networks, sorry. So you can see that there are 95 Pressbooks EDU networks, all of them being educational. Across and across all of these networks, there are over 2,200 Pressbooks books that are publicly available to you. And yeah, this is a great place to find resources of all different subjects and languages and licenses, and you can all see this information here. And if I were to hop into one of these books, then it would take you directly to that network. So eCampus Ontario is a huge consortium in Canada of many, many different colleges and universities that are in Ontario. And they have lots of amazing works, but it's all available to you through the directory. There's also lots of different buttons which show you the licensing of the book, whether or not this book is based on another book. So you'd be able to clone the book as well, which I'll go into in a little bit later on. And you can also see that this book has 14 H5P activities. So that is a little bit about the book card. Everything, like I said, that I've covered today is all in the guide. So whether that would be in the Pressbooks Network Manager Guide or our Pressbooks User Guide. So if you're confused about anything that I'm going through now or would like further clarification, I would, like I said, use the search bar to look for that information. So just a little bit more about where to find resources and what Pressbooks look like. So that sort of wraps up all of the introductory information that I wanted to show you. And with that being said, we can really dive into, finally, dive into actually making, going over rather, all of the settings that you can control as a network manager. And lastly, sorry, if I didn't make it clear, the Pressbooks directory is available to everybody. You don't have to be a network manager to access this. So, if you've just signed up for your Pressbooks EDU network, which I'm assuming is why you're watching this recording, this will always be available to you. And if you, like I said, have a faculty member who's, desperate to get started, this is available to them. This is available to even if you don't have a Pressbooks EDU network. If you have a colleague from another institution who is interested in Pressbooks but would like to see how Pressbooks books look, then the directory is the best place to start. So here we are. This is our sort of test Pressbooks University. This is university.pressbooks.pub, and you all will have your own institutional network. So this is obviously the first step to getting started. So get on your university or your institution's domain. And from here, you can go into sign in. And from here, you can log in using your network manager credentials. So I will do that here. And you will now see that you're logged in. And to get started, you can head into your admin panel, sorry. And from here, you will see 3 tabs. You will see Network Admin, you will see your middle bar, which will have the little home icon followed by your institution's name. So in this case, as this is our Pressbooks University instance, this is, we have called it Pressbooks EDU, but this will have your institution's network name, as well as My Books. So you as a network manager will always see these 3 tabs. But for anyone who is an end user at your network, so any faculty, any staff, any students, they will only see My Books because they won't have access to these administrative panels. So I will go through each of them individually. So firstly, I will actually start with this middle panel. This middle panel is only relevant when you're customizing your home page. It won't be relevant for anything else, so just keep that in mind. And we're starting here because this is the panel in which you will customize your homepage, as I've just said. So hop into here and just click on it. And on the left-hand side, go to Appearance. The reason I really like to really hammer it in with the fact that this is only for your home page is because a lot of these modules look really similar. So if you were to hop into my books, you might see an appearance panel, but the appearance panel to customize your homepage is only through the middle tab. So in the middle tab, like I said, go into appearance. If you hover over it, you will see the customize button. And upon clicking on it, you will see this interface. So Pressbooks is built on top of WordPress. So if you have worked with WordPress before, this might look a little bit familiar. But even if you haven't used WordPress, this should be fairly intuitive to use. And the best part of this is that as you're making edits on your homepage, you will be able to see what it would look like. And if you're happy with it, you can click publish. So just keep that in mind. As you can see, the active theme, like I said at the very beginning, is the Aldine theme. This is the theme for your network. And with that being said, we can get started on all of these panels. So firstly is site identity. So our logo, Pressbooks EDU, is up here. You'd be able to upload your own logo, as I had shown you with all the other institutional examples that I had provided. Your site title is up here. Your tagline is down here. And your site icon is the icon that goes on your browser. So for Pressbooks, so for this domain, university.pressbooks.pub, you can see we don't have an icon, but UC Berkeley and OpenOCO and Rebus, they all have their site icon. So I would very much recommend that this is something that you do so that your tab stands out when your end users are using it. Next is the front page catalog. So this is the catalog that shows at the bottom of the page. As you can see, we already have a bunch of books populated in here. But on your home network, you might see that this is checked off, but you don't see a catalog. Especially if you're just getting started with your network, you won't have any books that are in your catalog. Don't worry if this button is clicked, as in this is selected, but you don't see anything. You just need to put a book in your catalog, and once you do so, it'll automatically show up. Next is the contact form. So we have this enabled. You can choose to not enable it if you want, and this will disappear. Once I click publish, this will go away. But it just depends on who you want contacting you. It can be any email. It doesn't have to go to a help desk. It can be one of your personal email addresses, and that's available if you'd like to include that. There's also social media buttons down here. As you can see, we haven't put in any, but let's say if I did, facebook.com/Pressbooks, the correct button that corresponds to that social media will show up. So there's nothing you need to do other than insert the name, and then the corresponding logo will appear. Next are colors. This is where you can sort of go to town with whatever colors you want for your network. This is sort of the funnest part of all of this, is having your network colors, in my opinion. And you can just take your institution's hex code that you use as your network color, as your institution's colors, and include them here. By changing this, you can see where the primary colors go, and you can try testing this out with all of these colors as well. If you're unhappy with it, you can just click default and it'll go back to whatever it was before. You also have the header image. The header image is this image on the background. The name is a little bit misleading because you think header image lives up here around the header area, but it's actually the image that lives as your background image. Keep in mind that it ends about a screen full width down. It ends here. It doesn't go past this, and the background will by default be white after that. So keep that in mind. You also have two different menus, one up top and one at the bottom. You can choose to include more into your menus if you want. So as you can see, there's only two here, but you can also add items through your pages. I'll go through creating custom pages a little bit later on, but if you were to create a custom page, this is where you would come to add that page into your menu. There's also widgets. The widgets are the blocks that live down here. I believe I got to show it with OpenOCO. These are two widgets they have. You can build two laterally. So they've occupied one with their Council for Online Learning Excellence and other for their OpenOCO site. So the network foot blocks, sorry, the widgets are great, also called network footer blocks, because you can add in text, you can add in images, you can link the text or the images. So it's a really convenient place for navigation so that you can reroute your students or users to other places. And lastly is additional CSS. The one thing I will say about CSS is that we don't offer any assistance with CSS. That's not a part of our support. So if you are interested in customizing your network beyond what's available to you, that will sort of have to be uh, at your desires, and depending on your needs. Let's say that you've added CSS and you've accidentally broken the page. Don't worry, just remove your CSS and the page will go back to normal. The CSS doesn't replace any of our core code, so to speak. It only goes over top of it. So if you've written something that's erroneous, you can just erase it and it will just return back to its normal configuration, which looks like this. So that is all about how to customize your homepage. I hope that was fairly simple, very intuitive, very much what you see is what you get. So that's a little bit of an introduction. You can take the time to, go through your own thing and figure it out. So exiting out of this, you will now have seen that while I customized all the appearance related stuff on the homepage, I didn't get to edit any of the text that was on the homepage. So I might have shown you how you can, edit the menus and change the colors, but I didn't actually go through how you can change any of the content itself. So heading back to my module, above appearance, you will see pages, and this is where you can edit any of the text on your page. If you want to edit any of the boxes on your homepage, you will have to do that by going into Home, which is your defaulted homepage that you were given when your network was made. And you can see that this looks really similar. This is a Pressbooks edu network equipped with special silver features. You can see that that's reflected on this homepage here. So this is how the boxes are denoted. I know this kind of looks cumbersome if you're less familiar with this with Pressbooks so far, but it's actually very, very simple, and you can always preview your changes. So just to create another box, all you would have to do is create a page section. So drop your cursor in an empty line and create a page section. In this case, I'll call this test box. And I will give it a bordered text box. And I can insert my contact. This is a... And here I can add a call to action button. You can see that the box is denoted by these two pieces of shortcode. So just in those two pieces of shortcode, go to the call to action button, click on it, and I can call this click here. And let's say that I give this the Pressbooks link, Pressbooks homepage link, and I can click update. And when I view my page, you can see that my box has been built in full. So the box with the bordered section, with the title that I gave it, as well as the content that I put in, as well as the button, which will take me straight to the Pressbooks.com site. So that is all available. That is all done through the Pages module. And I'll actually head back so that I can show you that, what you see is what you get. And lastly, if you don't like anything you've done, all you'd have to do is go into browse, and all the changes that you've made is saved on the compare revisions module. So I will actually go back and I'll restore this revision. And upon doing so, I will now see that it's been restored and my box is now gone. You can also explore with adding your own custom pages. If I go into OpenOKO's site, they have created a couple of pages. So in this case, they've created this Get Help site, and they will have done so by adding a new page in the Pages module to add the necessary information that they wanted for this page. So that is a little bit about how to create your own custom pages and how to customize the pages this is how you can add new pages or customize the content that already exists on the home page. So that is all about how to modify your front end, so to speak. And like I said, if you want to know, if you want a refresher on any of this material or would like to read about it in greater depth, I would recommend that you check out part 2 of the Network Manager Guide, the Network Interface and Catalog. This will tell you how you can populate your catalog, how you can add and customize pages like I just showed you, customizing your network, and it also, goes into a little bit about the Aldean theme if you're curious about that too. So that covers everything that you need to know about the center home page bar. Next, I will go into My Books. So My Books is where all of your books are stored. By default, you as the network manager will have access to every book in the network. And I'll show you what that means when I show you the network admin panel. So all I mean to say with that is that the books listed here are the books that you are actively a part of, the books that you've been added to as a user. But just because these three are, the books, just because you're not seeing any books on here doesn't mean that you don't have access to every book on your network. And to have access to every book on your network, you would have to go through the network admin panel. And I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. But My Books is generally where all of your books will be stored that you are actively a part of. So let me show you what that means. I created this book called A Book of All Things. And when I go into the admin panel, you can see that I am actively a user on this. That's why that book shows up under My Books. But like I said, you have access to every book on your network through the network admin module. So to get started on any book, to create a book, all you'd have to do is go to My Books and click Create a New Book. And in this case, I'll call this Network Manager. And I'll give it a book title. If you're curious about privacy, it doesn't really matter right now. I go into what privacy means at the Getting Started with Pressbooks training. So if I'll only show you how you can get started with book creation just so that you have an idea as a network manager on how you can create books. But I would recommend that you come to the Getting Started with Pressbooks session if you're curious about anything beyond the scope of just how to get started. So here I give it a webbook address and a book title. The book title is changeable at any given time, and so is the webbook address. The one thing that I will say is that your end users, while they can change the book title at any point, they will not be able to change the webbook address. That is a privilege that is reserved to the network managers only. So if you see me say, if you hear me say your webbook address is not changeable at the end user training, it's because there are lots of end users at that training, and I don't want to put the burden on network managers to feel compelled to change webbook addresses. So if you hear me say conflicting things at the end user training, that's why. But I wanted to let you know that you as the network manager can always change the webbook address and the book title as well. So now when I create book, you will see that my book has now been created, and each book will be assigned its own site. So you can see that this is an empty shell of a book right now, and this is the URL for my book. So this is my network domain, and each book will get its own URL. As you can see, it's really bare. There's none of the information that you found before, no download button, and there's no content. But it's because I haven't added anything so far. But the goal of the end user trainings is to show you how you can populate all this information, enable the download button, populate the metadata. I'll go into all of that at the end user training. So like I said, would really encourage that you come so that you have an idea of how to get started with your projects. But I wanted to let you know that this is how you get started with your book. We also have a feature called cloning, which is very, very popular. Cloning is a process in which I would just go to My Books and click Clone a Book. Cloning is a process in which you can have an exact copy of an openly licensed book in the Pressbooks world on your network. And this is super convenient to have if you want to have some books on your network. You can easily clone over a book. So in my case, cloning takes a little bit of time. So in my case, I've already taken the liberty of cloning the Introduction to Community Psychology book on my network. So in this case, the original has press.rebus.community, followed by their book link. And I've cloned it onto my network, and you can see that it's on my university's domain. And I gave it its own URL as well. And I was able to do this because this book is openly licensed. So I was able to create an exact clone of this book and follow, fair use policies and the guidelines of this Creative Commons license. And the book is credited at the bottom. You can see that there's a book source. This is there by default. So cloning is a really efficient tool to have. I go more into cloning similarly to creating a book in the Getting Started with Pressbooks session, the end user training. So yeah, if you're curious about how to use this feature, and I guarantee you that it's a feature that is so widely used, please come to the session so that you can find out more information about this. But that is how you would get started with creating and cloning a book, and both of those features are available under My Books. If this is your first time logging in and you don't see a clone a book option, it's because you need to create a book in order to clone a book. That's not for any particular reason other than for a tech reason. I'm not sure why it does that, but just for technical purposes, you just need to create a book. So I just go and create a test book, and then create, and then this will enable the clone a book option to show, at which point you'd be able to clone a book. So with these two sections covered, I can now head into the last of the three panels, and that is the network admin panel. So the network admin panel is where you will be taking care of your network in full most of the time. So you can see right now, you can create a new book from here as well, but you have 281 sites. So in my case, I have 281 books and 297 users on this network, the university.pressbooks.pub network. So that's all of the users and all of the books on this network. And you can see the network storage as well. So how much storage your books are occupying. So I'll go through each of these modules in the network admin panel. So firstly is books. So this is what I was saying earlier. Even if you don't see all of the books under My Books, all of the books that are on your network, you can see as a network manager by going through the network admin panel in the book list. So this is where all of your books live. You can see your book title, when it was created, when it was last edited, the number of words, all of the very necessary information about your book, as well as the language, how big your book is, and some of the features, like, is the book public? Like I said, I go into what public and private means in the end user training, and putting the book in the catalog. So the catalog is the feature on the home page, this carousel here. So if you'd like to put your book into the catalog, all you'd have to do is click check, and then once you refresh, that book would now be put into the catalog, as you can see here. It's as easy as clicking this to turn it back off. Only you as a network manager will have access to put books into the catalog. Even book administrators won't be able to put the book into the catalog because it is a homepage related feature. So only you as a network manager have that choice. So all of the necessary parts of the book are displayed on here. And if you'd like to look at the book in full or the book's backend, you can also have a look through it here. The reason, and like I said, the reason you don't see this book, this introduction, the reason I don't see this book, Introduction to Sociology, under My Books, is because I'm not added as a user. But like I said, that doesn't mean that I don't have access to this book, because as you can see, I do right now. So if you're ever curious about a book, just go onto the dashboard, which will take you to the admin panel of that book, or you can click on the link itself and it will take you to the home page of that book. You can also filter through many different properties to be able to find the exact book that you're looking for. So, if you're curious about how many books are in the French language, you'd be able to click on this and it will automatically filter those books for you once you've applied the filter. You can also download this into a CSV file. And I know that lots of faculty and staff and network managers such as yourselves like to keep records of the books throughout the year. So this is also, you can also download this and have it in a separate place where you're keeping track of the books. Users is very similar to books. But unlike books, it's obviously for your users. This is where you have access to all of the user information on your network. I should restate that and say not all the user information, but you can see all of the users that are on the network as well as their information as well. So you can see that our CEO Hugh has 6 books on this network. And like I said, these are all the books that Hugh is a user on. So if I were to go into, my network, my user profile, I would see that I have 4 books. So I hope that makes sense. And you can see how many books they belong to as well. You can also see the roles that they have in the book itself. Like I said, another thing that we cover in the end user training, and you can also filter through some of the user properties as well as download it into a CSV, just like the books. So that sort of covers books and users. Something I will note here is that this is why I had really stressed the importance of being in the right module. A question that I get all the time is someone will be in the users module of the home page up top, and they'll say, "Hey, I don't see all my users. I only see, a certain list of people." And that is because you're on the wrong panel. If you want to see all of the users on your entire network, you have to be under the network admin panel. So keep that in mind. If you ever only see a set number of people, you're like, "Oh, but 100 students just signed up for Pressbooks." It's probably because you're not in the network admin users panel. So that covers books and users. Next, we'll go into settings. These are the network settings, and this is where you can control all of your network usages. Or how your network is being used. So the defaults on your network, as well as managing who can register and who can register and who can create books, as well as we also have Google Analytics. So I'll go through each of these right now. You can see your list of network managers. You can see that this is our product manager, Steele, and myself, Amy User. These are the 2 network managers on the network, and you will see the same reflected on your network as well. But if you'd like to request a change to this list, please contact us at premiumsupport@pressbooks.com, and we will gladly change this for you. You won't be able to change this list yourself. LTI 1.3 connection usage, if this is something you have purchased. So if you are interested in seeing how many people are using results for LMS, which is a feature that we offer that your network can purchase, this is where that information will be recorded. Results for LMS is a feature in which H5P activities in your books the attempts that your students record on those activities will be recorded into your LMS gradebook. So if that is a feature that interests you, you can get in contact with us at sales@pressbooks.com. We can offer pricing and more information about this. But anyways, this is where that information would go. You can see how many students have tried out this feature, and you can see when that number was last updated. This is very important. These are your network defaults. So this is what you set the network defaults. So for example, your book upload space. Are you going to limit the total size of files uploaded to a certain amount? By default, they're usually not selected because you don't have a network maximum storage for most people, unless it was stipulated otherwise in your contract. So lots of people have this turned off so that they can, anyone who is creating books can create them as big as they want. There's also max upload file size. So these are for individual file sizes, files that you upload. So the default maximum file upload is 25 megabytes. You can set it to something smaller if you wish, but you can't set it to something bigger. You can also choose the default book theme. There are 21 book themes that we have, but this is a matter of which one will it default to. You can change them at any point, but when a book is created, it needs to have a theme. So McLuhan was our very first theme. So historically, the default book theme has just been McLuhan, but there are many, many others that you can set the default to. For example, Malala is our newest book theme. And lots of networks have also set their defaults to Malala. So it just depends on what you want. If you want to see what all themes look like, you can go onto our guide to find that information there. There's default language. Right now, currently it's only English. And moving along, we also have default PDF sizes. It's set to digest, but if you want to set your default PDF page size to something else, you can do this here. This is just like theme, where you can change your PDF file size PDF page size at any point you want, but this is just the default. There's also an iframe allow list. So if your faculty are looking to iframe content from many different places on the web, so places like Google Docs or Maps or Twitter or Sketchfab, which I know is a very popular tool, or GIS tools, anywhere you want to allow iframe from, you will have to allow list this, and your end users don't have access to this list. So if you're having faculty that is struggling, let's say they've iframe content properly, but they say it's not working, chances are it's not included in the allow list. And you as a network manager will have to come add the domain so that whoever is trying to iframe that content can properly iframe the content, and it will show up beautifully. Lastly is the book directory option. So this option pertains to the Pressbooks directory, and what this option means is that if you were to select this, it would mean that anything that isn't in your network's catalog will by default not go in the directory. Conversely, if you were to unselect this, it means that even if there's a book that's set to public, and even if it isn't in the catalog, it can still be included in the directory. So those are the two options. If you're curious about this button option, there's a guide chapter about this in our Network Manager guide. Next is book and user registration. So these are the settings that are available to you in terms of who can register on your Pressbooks and who can create books. So in this case, it says allow registered users to create and clone new books. This is what you see is what you're getting. It's pretty self-explanatory. I would say that most networks tend to keep this on, but if you are a consortium, you might have a book limit. In that case, you might want to set this off, so that if you have a 30 book limit, for example, then you might not want anyone signing up to the network to automatically be able to create 15 books. So that's the difference that's a reason why someone would choose to keep this on, or a network would choose to keep this on or turn this off. But yeah, that's up to you to decide. Secondly is allow user self-registration. What this means is that by turning this on at the login page of your network, let's take Rebus, for example. If I go to sign in, you can see that they have self-registration turned off because they don't have the register button on here. And if I go onto here, you can see that OpenOCO does have self-registration turned on because they have the register button made available. So that's the difference between having this turned on, having this turned off. And then lastly is allowing book administrators to invite new users as collaborators on their book. So let's say one of your faculty members wants to write a book with another faculty member that isn't at their institution. Will you allow that? Will you not allow that? That's up to you as a network manager to decide by turning this feature on or off. You can also set limited email registrations. So let's say you do have self-registration turned on, but you only want people in your institution being allowed to register. So let's say I do want to keep self-registration turned on, but I only want that for people on the Pressbooks team. So what I do is add in pressbooks.com. And what that would mean is that even though the register button is there, you would absolutely need a pressbooks.com domain account to be able to register yourself. So that is what that looks like. And you can also similarly ban email domains as well. And that would be used, I do get some questions on why that would be used. For example, you might only want educational institutions being able to sign up for your limited email registration. So in this case, maybe you want to ban, Gmails, and you can do that here. You can also have email notifications each time a new book or user account is registered on the network. There's a couple of reasons why you can do this. An example I've come across is, for example, there was a network who wanted to not filter, but the network manager had wanted notifications every time someone signed up so that the network manager could reach out to the person who signed up and help them get started. So if that's your case, then you can choose to keep it on, or if you just want to have a list, if you want to know exactly who's signing up for your network, you can also choose to keep this on. There is also options for networks that allow self-registration, pretty self-explanatory. You can make them receive welcome emails that you can customize, and you can also get them to opt in at a terms of service at registration. So all of that is how you would manage your users and books and the creation of books and users. Lastly is third-party tools. At Pressbooks, we don't collect any information about your users other than the information that is absolutely necessary. So if you go up into users, you will see that the only thing that we require from them is a username that they make, as well as an email address. We don't require first names and last names, and we don't collect or sell any of your information. So if you want, well, we definitely do not sell, and we also don't collect. Just to clarify that, because that is a question. I know that lots of people are concerned about user privacy, and I just wanted to make that super, super clear. If you're curious about having more information about your network analytics, you can insert more information into Google Analytics. You can insert your Google Analytics ID, and you'll receive more information through the dashboard there. We also have a guide chapter about Google Analytics in our Network Manager guide. So if you're curious about this, I would recommend that you check that out. In terms of the statistics that we do collect, this is the only information that we collect, which starting at the bottom is the network storage. So how much storage each book is taking up, who's made the most amount of user revisions, the number of users over time, and the number of books over time. This is absolutely the only information that we collect. We don't collect any user-specific information either. And then the last thing that I wanted to go over is integrations. If you have the integrations panel, it means one of two things. You've purchased SSO, which is single sign-on, which is a service, if you're not familiar, which is a service in which you can be redirected through your sign-in module of your institution. And upon signing in successfully, they would be led back to they would be automatically logged into Pressbooks. That is, if you have SSO, we've probably spoken about it through email, but if you are interested in purchasing SSO for your network, reach out to sales@pressbooks.com, and they can offer pricing for you and how SSO works, information on how SSO works. But if you are curious, for example, if you have already purchased SSO and you need help getting started, please reach out to us and we can offer more information on how you can set that up with the person who does identity and access management at your institution. Secondly, if you can see here, if you've also purchased into LTI 1.1 or LTI 1.3, you will also see this enabled on your integrations. And LTI is a tool that will help you connect your Pressbooks book onto your LMS. This is another one of those cases where if you have not purchased into it, but you're curious about it, like I said, you can reach out to sales@pressbooks.com, and they would be able to provide you with more information. And there's also documentation about all of these things, about SSO and about LTI connections. So you can get in contact with me if you're confused about either of those things. If you're not interested in either, just ignore for now. And when you want more information on this, you can always reach out to us as needed. So with that being said, that wraps up our session. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us at premiumsupport@pressbooks.com, and please make sure to take advantage of all the resources that you have available to you, like the guide and the YouTube channel. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.